The wind howled through the broken towers of Cataris, carrying ash and snow in the air. The once beautiful city was now a silent grave. War had taken everything, its people, its homes, its light. In the middle of the ruins, a thin, pale alien woman wrapped her arms around a small child. Her name was Vecra, and the child, barely 4 years old, was her son, Lero. His small body shook from the cold. His skin, once bright with drilling color, had faded to a dull, lifeless shade. Vecra had nothing left, no food, no blankets, not even a coat. Her shoes had fallen apart weeks ago, and her clothes were now just scraps barely enough to cover her body. But her son needed food, so she walked the ruins of the old market district, holding Lero close, searching for anyone who might help. Her pride was long gone. Hunger and survival had taken its place. Near the broken wall of an old shop, a few merchants had set up small tables. They sold whatever they could find: dried meat, stale bread, water, and broken cans. Most ignored her. A few gave her cruel looks. One man laughed and turned away when she asked for help. Finally, one old trader looked at her. He didn't smile. "You got coin?" he asked, pointing at a small loaf of bread. "No," she said quietly. "But I have cloth, warm cloth." She slipped off the last pieces of her upper garment, shivering as the cold hit her bare skin. She held the fabric out with trembling hands. The trader looked at the cloth, then at her. "Fine, take it." He tossed the loaf onto the ground like garbage. Vecra dropped to her knees, grabbed the bread, and held it tightly. She ran back to where Lero sat, hiding behind a wall. The boy's eyes lit up when he saw the bread. He didn't ask questions. He tore into it with small, shaking hands. Crumbs fell on the ground. But Vecra didn't stop him. She just watched. For the first time in days, he was eating. But someone was watching them, hidden behind the broken glass of a fallen building. A human stood silently, wearing a long, dark coat and a helmet with a cracked visor. His name was Corvin Hale, a former soldier of Earth's defense forces. The war had left him with scars, not just on his body, but deep inside. After everything, he had chosen not to go home. Instead, he stayed behind in Cataris, trying to help those left with nothing. He had seen suffering. He had seen people steal, fight, and kill to survive. But what he just saw was something different. He saw a mother give up the last of her dignity to feed her child, and it broke something inside him. He stepped forward slowly, keeping his hands open and visible. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. Vkra froze. She turned her body slightly, shielding Lero. "You don't need to be afraid," Corvin said. "I saw what you did. That was brave." She didn't reply. Her eyes were sharp, like a cornered animal. "I have shelter," he continued. "Warmth, food. Not much, but enough for both of you. Come with me." Vecra narrowed her eyes. "Why would a human help me?" Corvin paused. "Because I can. Because someone should." She looked down at her son, who was licking the last crumbs from his fingers. His cheeks were still hollow, his eyes still tired. He needed more than one loaf of bread. She stood up slowly, still holding him. "If you lie," she said, "I will protect him, no matter what." "I believe you," Corvin said, then turned and started walking. She followed him, quietly and carefully. The walk through the ruins was silent. Corvin led her through alleys, across shattered bridges, and past burned-out tanks. The city was dead, but there were sounds, distant voices, movement in the shadows. Not all survivors were kind. After some time, they reached a hidden stairwell behind a collapsed building. Corvin pushed open a metal door, and the cold air disappeared. Inside was dim but warmer. Small lights lined the walls. Blankets, supplies, and tools were stacked neatly around the room. "This was an old scout station," he said. "I fixed it up." He handed Vecra a blanket. It was rough but thick. She wrapped it around herself and her son at once. Lero let out a soft sigh and closed his eyes. Warmth had finally reached him. Corvin opened a small heater. The orange glow lit the room. He gave her a small bowl with soup and a piece of soft bread. Vecra stared at it for a moment, then took it with shaking hands. She didn't eat until Lero had finished his share. You can stay here tonight, Corvin said. Rest, I'll keep watch. Why are you doing this? She asked again. Her voice was quieter now, almost tired. I was a soldier once, he said. I did things I wish I hadn't. This is what I can do now. It's the only thing that feels right. Vecra didn't speak again that night. She just held her son, fed him, and watched him sleep with tears in her eyes. For the first time in months, there was no fear, no cold, no hunger. Only silence, warmth, and the soft breathing of a sleeping child, and the strange kindness of one human who had no reason to care but did anyway. For a few seconds, she didn't know where she was. The walls were not broken. The air was not cold. Her body was wrapped in a warm blanket, and her son was sleeping quietly in her arms. Then she remembered the human Corvin Hale had brought her and Lero to his shelter under the ruins of Cataris. He gave them food, warmth, a place to sleep. For the first time in a long time, she had not woken in fear. She sat up carefully and looked around. The room was simple, clean. A few crates were stacked in one corner. A heater hummed softly in the middle. Metal shelves held small tools and supplies, medicine, wires, old weapons, and parts of machines. On the wall, a faded Earth flag was pinned beside a broken data pad. Corvin wasn't there. She wrapped the blanket tight around her and rose. Lero kept sleeping, breathing steadily now. His skin had more color. His chest didn't wheeze like before. Her heart swelled with quiet relief. The door opened behind her. Corvin stepped in, carrying a bag of supplies and a metal canteen. His coat was dusty from the ruins outside. You're awake, he said, setting the bag down. I brought more food and water. Vecra nodded slowly. Thank you. Corvin looked at Lero. He's stronger already. Yes, she said. Her voice was soft but honest. He would have died soon. You saved him. Corvin sat down on an overturned crate and poured water into a metal cup. No one should have to trade their clothes for bread. That shouldn't happen. Not to anyone. Vecra said nothing. Her eyes looked away, to the floor. After a moment, Corvin spoke again. You can stay here for now. I won't ask questions. But if you want to talk, I'll listen. Vecra stayed silent for a long time. Then she slowly sat across from him. I was not always like this, she said. Before the war, I was a speaker, a teacher. My house was known in the high cities of the Drellin Corps. Corvin raised his eyebrows slightly. She gave a small, bitter laugh. Now I dig in the snow for rotten fruit. What happened to your people? He asked gently. They lost, she said. Our leaders tried to claim too much. We fought. Humans, and we lost. Everything burned. My mate was killed. Our home was destroyed. I ran with Lero. I thought maybe someone would show mercy. Corvin's jaw tightened. He looked down at his hands. I was there, he said after a moment. During the Battle of Soulless Deep, my squad was wiped out. I was the only one who made it out alive. Vecra blinked. I hated your kind for that, she said, honest and quiet, for a long time. I don't blame you, Corvin replied. I hated yours, too. They sat in silence. Then Corvin looked up. But war is war. And this isn't war anymore. It's just survival. Vecra nodded slowly. Yes, and now I only want my son to live. You both will, Corvin said. I'll help you, as long as I can. The days passed quietly. Vecra and Lero stayed in the shelter. Corvin gave them food, clean clothes, and a warm place to sleep. Vecra began to trust him, slowly. Carefully, she helped around the shelter, fixing broken tools, organizing supplies, and sorting through scrap that Corvin brought from the outside. She was clever with her hands and knew how to repair old tech. Her knowledge surprised Corvin. You were really a teacher, he asked one night as she fixed a broken power cell. Yes, she said, smiling faintly. Physics and signal systems. I was head of my sector. You might be smarter than me, Corvin said. I know I am, she said, without blinking. Then she smirked, a small, rare smile. Corvin laughed. Lero grew stronger each day. He walked around now, played with pieces of wire, and followed Corvin with wide eyes. The human gave him a toy little spinning disc that glowed softly when you tossed it. Lero giggled for the first time in weeks. Vecra watched, her heart full and heavy at once. She had not expected kindness from a human, but now this place felt real, safe. One evening, Corvin returned with a small injury, just a cut on his arm, but deep. Scrapwall gave me a gift, he joked, pressing a cloth to it. Vecra took the first aid kit without a word and cleaned the wound. She worked with gentle fingers, focused and calm. You didn't flinch, Corvin said. I've seen worse. She replied, I've done worse. Their eyes met for a moment. Neither looked away. I meant what I said before, he added. You don't owe me anything. You don't need to pay me back. I know, she said, but I want to help. Not just for me, but for you. You're alone here too, aren't you? Corvin didn't answer. He didn't need to. Later that night, Vecra couldn't sleep. She sat by the small heater, listening to its hum. Lero was sleeping peacefully nearby. Corvin sat across from her again, his coat pulled tight. Do you think this will last? She asked suddenly. This peace, this shelter? I don't know, he said honestly. But I want it to. Vecra looked into the firelight. So do I outside. The wind howled across the broken city. But in that hidden room, there was warmth and quiet and something that felt like hope. Vecra didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in a long time, she dared to believe in something good. Night came early in the ruins of Catters. Thick clouds covered the sky. The city had no lights. No warmth, only the cold wind and distant echoes. Inside the shelter, Corvin checked the locks on the doors. He always checked them 3 times before sleeping. He had seen too much. He trusted no one, not even the silence. Vecra was sewing a torn sleeve using a thin piece of wire. Her hands moved with skill and speed. Lero sat near her, drawing shapes in the dust on the floor. Corvin looked at the boy and smiled. He's healing fast. He still coughs sometimes, Vecra replied. But yes, much better. Corvin took a deep breath. He liked the quiet. He liked the small things, seeing Lero laugh. Hearing Vecra hum a tune from her homeworld, it reminded him of something he thought he had lost forever. Peace. But peace doesn't last long in a broken world. A sharp sound rang out, metal against stone. Then voices, low, rough, and cruel. Vecra's head snapped up. She knew those sounds, raiders. Corvin moved fast. He shut off the heater light and grabbed his weapon, an old plasma rifle held together with tape and spare parts. He looked at Vecra. Stay down. Hide Lero. Don't open the door unless I call. Vecra nodded and grabbed her son, pulling him behind the supply crates. She covered him with blankets and held him close. The door shook. A voice shouted from outside. We know you're in there. Open up. No one hides food in our city. Corvin didn't answer. He waited. He knew their type. Hungry, angry men and aliens who hunted the weak. They stole, destroyed, and killed just because they could. The door shook again. This time, they used force. A sharp bang rang out. Corvin raised his rifle. His breath slowed. His mind focused. He was a soldier again. With a loud crash, the door burst open. 3 raiders stepped in. One was human, tall and scarred. The others were mixed species. One had metal claws. The other wore a half mask and smelled like smoke. The first one laughed when he saw Corvin. Look at this. A hero. Corvin didn't speak. He fired. The first shot hit the wall on purpose. They ducked. I won't miss the second time, Corvin said coldly. But they weren't scared. They thought he was bluffing. The one with claws rushed forward. Corvin fired again. The shot hit the ground in front of the raider, melting the floor. The claws stopped. But now, someone else moved. Vcary. She stepped out of the shadows, fast and silent like a ghost. In her hand was a sharp piece of metal. She slammed it into the back of the masked raider's knee. He howled and fell. Corvin took the chance and shot the other. A flash of light, a scream. Then silence. The last raider backed away quickly. I don't want trouble, he shouted. I didn't know this place had fighters. Corvin didn't shoot. He stared into the man's eyes. Then walk away, and don't come back. The man ran. After the fight, the room was quiet again. Vecra stood over the fallen raider, breathing hard. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were calm. You didn't have to do that, Corvin said gently. Yes, I did, she replied. This is my shelter to now. Corvin looked at her for the first time. He truly saw the warrior she used to be, not just a mother, not just a survivor, a protector. You're not just strong, he said. You're dangerous. I was trained to be, she said. Long ago, before I became a mother, they worked together to move the bodies out of the shelter. Corvin fixed the broken door. Using scrap metal and melted sealant, Vecra stayed near Lero, who had not said a word during the whole fight. Later that night, Corvin gave her a piece of dried fruit and sat beside her. You saved my life, he said. You saved mine first. She replied. Now we're even. He smiled faintly. You don't believe in debts, do you? I believe in balance, she said, in protecting what matters. Corvin looked at her carefully. What does matter to you now? She looked at Lero, who was sleeping peacefully again. Him. She whispered. In this place. In the following days, Vecra changed. She no longer stayed quiet. She helped Corvin build better locks, hide traps near the entry, and train with weapons. Her old skills returned quickly, aiming, defending, watching. Corvin was surprised. You used to lead soldiers, didn't you? I was not high rank, she said. But I trained many. I used to believe war made us strong. And now, she looked out the window at the empty streets. Now I believe peace makes us stronger. Together, they made the shelter safer. They taught Lero how to stay hidden, how to move quietly, how to survive. But there was something else growing to trust. Not just the kind that saves lives in battle, but the kind that builds something new, something neither of them had for a long time. They began to talk more at night, about the stars, about their homes, about the war. Corvin told her about his squad, his brother who died in the second orbital drop, and how he stayed behind because he had no one left to go home to. Vecra told him about her people, their songs, their cities, and how she missed the sound of her native tongue. It was beautiful, she said. But I don't need it now. My son is my world. Corvin listened. And in the quiet warmth of their small room, something unspoken formed between them. Not romance, not duty, just a bond between two people who had lost everything and found something again in each other. That night, Corvin handed her a small object. It was an old pendant, worn and simple, with the Earth symbol carved into it. I wore this during the war, he said. It brought me luck. Vecra stared at it. I can't take that. It's not a gift, he said. It's a promise that I'll fight to protect this place, you, Lero, as long as I live. She looked into his eyes. Then I promised the same. Outside, the wind still howled through the ruins, but inside, the shelter stood strong. And two protectors watched over it together, one human, one Drellin, both survivors. The shelter was quiet, but change was coming. Vecra stood on the rooftop of the ruined building above the shelter. She looked out across the broken city of Cataris. The sky was clear for once. She could see the stars, cold and distant, like silent watchers over the war-torn land. Below her, the streets were still dangerous. But in this one place, something had grown. Safety, warmth, and peace. She had helped build it. She had fought for it. And now, others were coming. She could feel it. Corvin was busy checking supplies inside. He had made a list, scribbled on old paper. Food was running low. Medicine, too. They would need to make another run soon, maybe toward the old tunnels near the southern edge. But there was something else on his mind. For days now, he had noticed small sign scouts watching from a distance. Lights in buildings that had been empty for months. Survivors were gathering again, and one of them was Drellin. That evening, Vecra returned with fresh water she had collected from a working pipe 3 blocks away. She walked in silently and placed the container on the table. They followed. Me, she said. "Corva," and stood still. "Who, my people?" she replied. "A small group, about 12. Soldiers, children, wounded. One of them recognized me. He said they've been searching for me." Corvin raised his eyebrows. "Why?" "I was part of a noble house," she said. "They believe I can lead them, or at least keep them alive." Corvin was quiet for a moment. "Will you go with them?" he asked. "I don't know," Vecra said. "I thought I had nothing left. I thought the past was gone. But they still look to me." Lyro peeked from behind a crate. "Mama?" Vecra smiled at her son and reached for his hand. Corvin looked at both of them. "You don't have to choose right now." "Yes, I do," she said. "They need help. They have no supplies, no shelter. But this place, it is ours, yours and mine. We made it strong." Corvin nodded slowly. "Then maybe we help them here. Bring them in, feed who we can." "It won't be easy," she warned. "Some may not like staying with a human." "Let them try," Corvin replied. "I've handled worse than a few angry aliens." Vecra smiled, but in her heart she felt torn. Her people needed her, but this man had given her more than food and safety. He had given her trust. And something deeper. The next morning, Vecra met with the Drellin group at the edge of the city ruins. They came slowly, wearing scavenged armor, thin cloaks, and wounded pride. The leader of the group, an older male named Sereth, but when he saw her, Speaker Vecra, he said with respect, "You live." "I do," she said, "but not as I once did." "You survived with a human?" he asked, glancing at the supplies in her arms. "Yes," she answered calmly. "He saved me, saved my child. I owe him more than I can explain." Sereth frowned. "Many will not understand this. They still blame humans for the war. And I once did," she replied. "But hatred feeds no one. It builds nothing." He looked at her for a long time, then nodded. "We will follow you," he said. "But if the others cause trouble, it will fall on you." "I accept that." Corvin welcomed them carefully. He opened the outer storerooms, shared what little food he had left, and offered tools so they could build temporary shelter near the main room. Some of the Drellin looked at him with suspicion, others with fear, but they did not attack. They were too tired, too broken, too in need of help. Lyro played near the corner with 2 Drellin children, laughing as he showed them the spinning toy Corvin had made. That sound children laughing was rare in Cataris, and it warmed both Vecra's and Corvin's hearts. But not all moments were peaceful. One night, Sereth came to Vecra with a warning. "Some of the younger fighters," he said, "believe you are forgetting your people. They say the human is leading you, controlling you." Vecra narrowed her eyes. "He is not. He is my ally. They don't see it that way." Sereth said, "They speak of removing him." Vecra stood. "Then let them try." She left the room and went straight to Corvin. "We have a problem," she said. "A few of the others don't trust you." Corvin sighed. "I figured." "What do you want me to do?" "Nothing," she said. "I will speak to them." Later that night, she stood before the entire group, Drellin and human alike. "This man saved me," she said clearly. "He fed my child when no one else would. He shared this shelter with no demand. If anyone believes he is the enemy, then they are welcome to leave. But if you stay, you follow the rules of this place: peace, order, unity." No one spoke. Then Sereth nodded once. No one left. A few days later, Corvin gave Vecra a small package wrapped in cloth. She opened it and stared in surprise. Inside was a cloak stitched from different fabric scraps, but carefully made. Its colors matched the Drellin noble house tones: soft blue and silver. Simple, but respectful. "You made this?" she asked. "I tried," he said. "I found old records of your house colors. I thought maybe it would help." Vecra touched the cloth gently. Her fingers trembled. "It does," she whispered. "More than you know." Corvin looked away, a little embarrassed. "I didn't do much," he said. "Yes, you did," she replied. "You gave me something I didn't think still existed." "What's that?" "Honor." That night, she wore the cloak proudly. She stood on the roof once more, looking out at the stars. But this time, she didn't feel alone. Below her was a new kind of home, not perfect, not large, but real. And beside her stood a human who had no reason to care, no reason to help, but did anyway. Not because of war, not because of duty, because it was the right thing to do. The days in Cataris were no longer filled with only silence and fear. Smoke now rose from small fires, not from war, but from cooking pots and warm chimneys. The sound of hammers replaced the sound of blasters, and laughter, real, innocent. Laughter of children echoed through the ruins, the shelter that once held just Corvin, Vecra. And Liro had become a home for many. People came from all directions, humans, Drellin, and others. They came hungry, sick, afraid, but hopeful. Word had spread. There was a place in Cataris where no one cared what species you were. If you worked, if you respected peace, you were welcome. They called it New Cataris. Corvin stood in what used to be a broken storage room. Now, it was a kitchen with pots boiling over fire and trays of dried roots and mushrooms. He was fixing a water purifier with 3 Drellin teens. They followed his instructions closely, laughing when he made jokes in a very bad alien accent. Vecra entered quietly. Her silver and blue cloak moved softly behind her. The others greeted her with nods and smiles. She had become more than just a survivor. She was a symbol now of dignity, of unity, and of strength. She walked over to Corvin. They fixed the eastern wall, she said. The scouts say it'll hold even in strong winds. Good. Corvin said, tightening a valve. We'll need the extra protection soon. Cold season's coming fast. Vecra looked around at the workers. No fighting in 2 weeks, she said. Corvin smiled. That might be a record. It's working, she whispered. We're building something real. Corvin stood and wiped his hands on his pants. You made this happen, Vecra. You brought your people here. You stood up when they doubted. You led. She shook her head. I did not do it alone. They both turned to look at Liro, who was teaching younger children how to turn scrap metal into toy animals. He looked happy, stronger than ever. That boy saved us both, Corvin said. Without him, you would have never traded your last clothes for food. And I would have walked right past. Vecra nodded. He is our light. Later that evening, a meeting was held in the old control room. The leaders of both groups, Drellin and human, sat together around a large, repaired table. A young human engineer explained a plan to build a power grid using leftover solar panels. A Drellin medic spoke of creating a shared clinic, so species could learn from each other's biology. Corvin watched from the side, arms crossed. He didn't like politics, but this was different. These were real people making real decisions. There were arguments, yes, but not hate. No one raised a weapon. When the meeting ended, Vecra walked beside him. They're talking like equals, she said. They're equals, Corvin answered, but peace still needed to be protected. One cold morning, a band of outsiders approached, armed, loud, and greedy. They demanded food and shelter, saying they would take what they wanted. They laughed at the idea of peace between species. Corvin met them outside the gate. I've seen men like you before, he said. You live off the fear of others. The leader spat. And you live in a dream. Corvin stood tall. It's a dream that's real now. Vecra appeared beside him, holding a long staff, a weapon from her old world, wrapped in the same cloth as her cloak. You want to take from children? She asked. From the weak. You will face the strong. The raiders looked around. The gates opened slowly, and from behind them stepped dozens of people, human and alien, standing side by side with tools, weapons, and courage. Farmers, cooks, healers, builders, all ready to defend their home. The raiders turned and ran. No fight, no war, just unity. That night, they lit a large fire in the center of the shelter yard. Everyone gathered, families, workers, elders, children. They shared stories, food, and songs from different worlds. A human child danced to a Drellin flute. An old Drellin clapped to a human rhythm. Corvin sat on a crate, watching it all with quiet pride. Vecra joined him, holding 2 cups of warm root tea. She handed him one. You look tired, she said. I am, Corvin smiled, but it's The good kind of tired. They sipped the tea in silence, watching the fire. Then Vecra reached into her pocket and pulled out a small item. It was the earth pendant he had given her before. I want you to take this back, she said. Corvin frowned. But I gave that to you. I'm giving it back, she said, placing it gently in his hand. Not because I don't want it, but because I want you to have something new. She pulled a small chain from her own neck. A thin piece of metal with a drone symbol carved into it, a symbol of rebirth. This is for you, she said, for all that you've built. Corvin stared at it, then smiled. They both wore each other's symbol now. As the fire burned lower, Lyro climbed onto Corvin's lap and leaned against him, sleepy and full. Is this home now? The boy asked softly. Yes, Corvin said. It is. The next morning, Vecra wrote a message on a scrap of metal and placed it at the edge of the city, where travelers would see it. Welcome to New Caterus. No war, no hate, only peace and work. All are welcome. Stand with us or pass by in peace. Vecra and Corvanch stood back and looked at it, then walked toward the shelter. Behind her, the wind blew gently. And the new city built not on power, but on kindness, strength, and second chances stood tall under the morning sun.